Piss and Vinegar Day 166. So I had a topic that I did in live narration, but the mic didn't pick it up. So I'm just going to do a post narration, and I'm going to do a different topic. And tomorrow I might go over the said topic, or maybe a video, an actual full-fledged video of bullet points I'll do. It's basically I just took Jeffrey Verity's Schofield's recent video about whether you take advice from naturals or Reuters or somewhere in between, or like how do I perceive personally that subject. And I have a few different tidbits of information on that I want to talk about. But today's topic in post narration isn't that. I'm going to make more of a bullet point video based on that, I think, just to flesh it out more eloquently rather than putting it in piss and vinegar where you still get the golden nuggets, but it's not as eloquently put and it's all over the place, because that's how my brain kind of works. But today I'm going to talk about frequency when it comes to high intensity training. So how frequently or infrequently should you train? And this very much depends on a few different things. The first one, most importantly, is just how strong are you? If you're a Dorian Yates and you're on fucking all the gear in the world and you're incline bench pressing fucking 450 pounds, you're going to need rest, and plenty of it. And you're probably not going to need a hell of a lot of rest pauses and drop sets beyond that point, because that's just so much weight, so much taxation on the central nervous system. A Dorian Yates is going to need 7 days of rest until the next session. But on the total other end of that spectrum, if you're a novice, of which you shouldn't probably be doing high intensity training yet, but if you are a novice, for example, and you're doing high intensity training, you're vastly better off training more frequently, because that incline press is no longer 450 pounds, it's like 130 pounds. And the central nervous system doesn't take anywhere as much toll. Because at the end of the day, with high intensity, the infrequency of training isn't because the muscles take time to recover. It's because the central nervous system's ligaments and tendons take time to recover. That's the only difference with high intensity to volume, is that you can train, well, I mean, there's many differences, but one of the biggest differences is simply that you can't train as frequently. But in turn, you get better gains out of the workout you do, and you don't have to overcompensate with frequency for that fact. So if you're a novice and you're, incline barbell pressing 130 pounds instead of the 450 that Dorian Yates was, you could probably train every 4 days, or maybe every 3 days, or whatever then, depending on your genetic predisposition, will allow you. But if, on average, if you're a novice and you're weaker, you can train more frequently. Now, right now, I'm probably more intermediate upper body, advanced upper body, depending, and then lower body more so intermediate, if not novice in some areas. And thus, I probably could train my legs numerous times a week. But the problem is, then the rest of my body is taking such a central nervous system hit, because the rest of my body is intermediate. So, unfortunately for my legs, they could, if the rest of my body was intermediate or novice, be trained more frequently. But because then the body is hit as a systemic, whole. It's not like when you do like a chest and tricep day, that your central nervous system just in your chest and triceps is taxed. No, the entire body is, and hence why you need rest, and hence why you can't do, upper lower like twice a week with high intensity training as like an intermediate advanced person. Whereas if you're a novice, though, you very well could do. You could do maybe full body high intensity twice a week. You could train a bit more frequently, but the more strength that you acquire and the more loads that are going onto your tendons, ligaments, and central nervous systems, that doesn't recover anywhere as quick as the muscles do, the more rest you're going to need. The muscles, typically 48 hours, are pretty much ready to go, regardless of intensity of effort. Maybe a little bit more time for intensity or high intensity techniques, but really what you're trying to recover is your central nervous system, ligaments, and tendons. And that will just be dependent on how heavy a load you have. Your tendons are going to progress a hell of a lot slower than your muscles. Hence why steroid users get tendon and ligament tears. But basically, that's the first thing, is how hard are you training, or how heavy are you training, rather? How strong are you? And then the next thing is just more individual. I mean, depending on the person, you might get a little bit more, you might need a little bit less or a little bit more rest than the next person. So let's say you have one version of Dorian Yates who can incline bench press 450 pounds, and another version of him who just happens to have a little bit more efficient of a central nervous system and can recover maybe a day or half a day or maybe 2 days quicker than the other version. That is very possible. Some people are more workhorse heavy. Some people can just recover quicker than others. And that's one of the thing about genetics is like, yes, someone might have excellent genetics for hypertrophy, like low myostat and high testosterone and shit, but you very well might be a workhorse. You might recover quicker than the average person, in which case, rather than training, if you say we're an advanced high intensity trainer, rather than being the average person who, when they're advanced, needs 6 to 7 days rest in between body parts, you very well might only need 4 or 5, which allows you on a long continuum to build more muscle because you are training more frequently. But again, it's a matter of also just slowly figuring it out yourself. Another aspect is calorie intake. If I was in a bulk right now, I'm cutting right now, I can't train as frequently, and I've been taking more days off. I'm a bit of a workhorse. I can recover pretty quickly, albeit I'm not that strong yet compared to, a Dorian Yates, for example. But overall, I probably can recover a little quicker than the average person, and thus when I was bulking, I was training 6 days a week, but with 1 day off. Granted, I was training the muscles every 7 days, but I'm training every day. Whereas now that I'm cutting weight, I'm training 5 times a week instead of 7 or 6 or 7 because the calorie intake is lower and thus I don't have as much recovery on my side. I haven't got as much nutrients to fuel my central nervous system, the muscles, ligaments, tendons, all the systemic stress that I'm taking on. So it depends on whether you're cutting, you're bulking, whether or not you are super strong, whether or not you're super weak. Steroids, believe it or not, probably won't make a huge difference. If you're on steroids, in fact, it'll probably make a difference in the sense that you won't be able to train as frequently because, again, you'll be way stronger than the average person. Your tendons and ligaments will be at risk because your muscles will be getting so much stronger. Hence why Dorian Yates got down to 4 sessions a week because he started tearing muscles and shit. And if you're in a cut, it'll matter even more because every injury Dorian Yates had was when he was in a weight cut, when he had a nutrient deficiency, when he was dehydrated and the muscles started fucking tear off the bone. So there's quite a bit to consider, but overall, just experiment with it. If you're in a bulk right now, that's probably the best way to do it. As you're bulking, see how frequently you can get away with. Let's say you start with 7 days, hit the muscles every 7 days, and you're progressively overloading really well. Cool, let's go to 6. Try 6 for a few weeks. Still progressive overloading just as well. Awesome. Let's try 5. All right, progressive overload still pretty much going up. 4. Hold on, I stalled out, and I'm otherwise was gaining a hell of a lot of strength and muscle, and I'm still in a surplus. So what's going on here? Well, that's my limit. Every 4 days is too frequent. I can't recover quick enough. So you want to basically train as frequently as you can get away with, because mathematically, in a year's period, you will have had done more workouts. Essentially, you would have done more chest days in that week or that year rather than the guy who has to rest every 10 days or something crazy like that. You know what I mean? Which is part of why I never really agreed with Mike Mentz's 10 days thing, because it's like, who the fuck has such a shitty central nervous system and who is that strong where they need to train every 10 days? Like, I never believed that shit. But just go as infrequently as your body will allow, and that way you can train more frequently and get more gains. There's plenty of other things you can do, sauna, ice baths, and shit like that. Like, every little percentage you can add to help rejuvenate your central nervous system for the next session, the better. I mean, if you get in the ice bath and a sauna, or sauna and an ice bath, you very well might get an extra day of recovery taken off your recovery time. You might be able to train every 4 days now. You couldn't only get away with 5? Cool. Add an ice bath, add a sauna, add another thing, magnesium, a bunch of supplements, blah, blah, blah. Bam, all of a sudden now you can get away with every 4 days. So it just depends. Are you still progressively overloading? Excellent. If you're not, no, you're overtrained. Or you're under calories, in which case training will change once again. The frequency will change again. So hopefully that answers some questions of anyone wondering about frequency with high intensity training. See you guys for the next video. Bye-bye.